When Mason handed me the separation fee for the 19th time, I was cool with it. The girl he was head over heels for was pushing for a title and couldn't hang around any longer. Neither could I. I was expecting, and the baby wasn't his. After signing the deal, I snapped a pic and sent it to Mason. It was signed. "Can your assistant swing by and grab it?" I texted. 20 minutes ticked by, with Mason's chat window as silent as the night. I was debating whether to call a courier when Mason showed up at my door, looking a bit winded. He actually showed up himself. Totally makes sense. His little darling had been causing a ruckus for half a year, demanding an official role. Looks like he was seriously rushing things. "So, what's the new game you're playing?" I asked. "I've given you everything you could want." His tone was icy, with a dash of frustration. 3 years back, Mason gave me a wedding. Since then, I've been his wife in name. I rode with him from the bottom to the top, but lately, he's been scheming to ditch me, just to make space for that little songbird. He's tweaked the property split agreement 19 times already. I was never happy with any of them before. This time, I signed it without a fuss, and now he's acting shady. I laughed and handed him the paper. He eyed it suspiciously, saw my signature, and his face darkened. "Lily, you really went through with it." I gave him a strange look. He always said he couldn't stand my petty jealousy. Now, I wasn't making a scene, just taking the money and bouncing like he wanted, but he looked even more pissed. "Don't tell me he's going to make me cry begging him to stay." I smirked. "Isn't this great? You can marry Bella now, and I can start living my life." This time, the deal included the house, car, company shares, everything. He didn't hold back. I took it all. After all, I'd been by his side all these years when he was broke, letting him benefit from my efforts. Now, with everything I've earned plus what he's giving me, even if I start traveling the globe tomorrow, I've got enough to live comfy for life. Love might be gone, but at least I'm rolling in cash. Mason caught my drift, and his expression got complicated, like he wanted to say something, but held back. Just then, a sweet, soft voice cut through. "Lily, thanks for letting us be together." It was Bella, the little songbird Mason was crazy about. She was like a phoenix rising from the hills. Regular education. It wasn't easy for her to get into the cutthroat Galaxy group, yet she pulled it off in just 3 months, becoming Mason's assistant in the CEO's office. She worked hard to charm Mason. He said she was pure and sweet, always worried I'd bully her. But what kind of sweet person would sleep with a married dude and send pics to his wife? I couldn't handle it before. I cried my eyes out, made a scene, even blew it up online in anger. The next day, nothing was left. Mason's moves were always clean and thorough. The funny part? Eventually, he used those same tactics on me. After all the drama, I was worn out. I glanced at the two of them with a faint grin, not saying much. "You got the deal, so you're out of here?" I served the eviction notice. The villa was under my name. Since Mason started seeing his girl more, he barely came back. If they stayed any longer, I'd need to clean the whole place from top to bottom. Mason's face darkened. "Lily, playing hard to get won't fly with me. Since you dared to sign, don't back out." With that, he grabbed Bella and bounced. "Wait," I called after Mason. He turned back, showing a look I expected. He probably thought I couldn't let him go, but I just reminded him, "Don't forget to transfer the money and property to my name soon." His expression blanked for a sec. Then he clenched his teeth. "You're in a rush." Yeah, I was in a rush. I was expecting, not his. The longer I delayed breaking up, the worse it'd get. I had a prenatal appointment coming up. Out of nowhere, I bumped into Mason and Bella at the hospital. He was holding her hand gently. Bella was chatting away, and he was all ears, looking sweet. They were so tight. No room for a third wheel. Memories flooded back. Long ago, he treated me that way too. It had been ages. The last time he gazed at me like that was when I had a miscarriage. I was 4 months in. He had his first fling. She was a bold chick. She barged in, demanding I make space for her. I called her shameless, and she said the unloving one is the mistress. Her pride got hurt, and she pushed me hard, making me lose the baby covered in blood. I ended up in the OR, waking up to Mason's regretful face, his eyes full of guilt, gripping my hand tight, sobbing, "I'm sorry, Lily. I'm a jerk. Hit me, please." I slapped him hard. He didn't dodge, just took it. When I got tired of hitting him, he reluctantly said, "Just this once, Lily. Give me a chance to make it up to you." "Okay, we'll have kids again." He sent that girl away, turning back into a caring partner. But it only lasted half a year. After that, new girls kept popping up around him, one young face after another. Before I could remember them, they were replaced. Bella had stuck around the longest. Running into them at the OBGYN was super awkward. I turned to leave, but Bella's voice stopped me. "Lily, fancy seeing you here." She was clinging to Mason like a shiny accessory, cheeks flushed, looking kinda shy. "I'm expecting here to see the doctor." I watched her act stone-faced. Mason saw the registration slip in my hand and frowned. "What are you seeing the doctor for?" I gave a cold smile. "Mr. Mason, best not to snoop on your ex-wife's business in front of your new girl." He looked kinda ticked and actually shoved Bella aside, grabbing my wrist. "Lily, I'm your man. You suddenly showing up at the OBGYN? I gotta know." I stared at him, mocking in my tone. "My man, Mr. Mason, are you sure?" Even though we had a wedding in the marriage registry, I've always been single. Mason hesitated, like he suddenly remembered something, his eyes getting darker. "Yeah, that wedding was so romantic and grand back then. To outsiders, I was your only wife, especially over the years, our businesses and shares were all tied up. But who knew? We never actually went to the civil office." Whenever I pushed Mason to get the certificate with me, he was either at a meeting or traveling abroad. His time was always too precious. Couldn't spare half an hour in 3 years to get a marriage certificate with me. Yet, when we split, we fought over money and power distribution, making a scene everyone knew about. My wrist hurt from his grip, but he wouldn't let go. Luckily, shortly after, the nurse called my name. "Patient Lily, please head to room 5 for your checkup." Only then did Mason reluctantly release my hand. I immediately walked past him and Bella into the room, locked the door, not giving a damn about Mason's super dark look. The doctor reviewed my reports carefully, gave some instructions, and told me to bring the baby's dad next time. "He's dead." That hit like a ton of bricks. The doctor, who was focused on writing prescriptions, quickly looked up, eyes full of sympathy. He switched to a comforting tone, telling me to take care and grieve properly. I played along, putting on a sad face. Maybe it was early in the pregnancy, I felt kinda sleepy. After leaving the hospital, I kept crashing. In my days, I had a bunch of dreams. First, it was me just graduating college, and Mason's family went bankrupt, leaving him homeless. We cramped into a tiny rented place where he held me, wrapping me in his jacket, resting against his chest. "Lily, once I have the cash, I won't let you suffer anymore. I'll hire at least 5 people, 1 cook, 1 to wash clothes, 1 to fold blankets." From the sound of his booming heartbeat, my face flushed from his sweet talk, naively thinking love could conquer all. Later, he really bounced back, hitting fame and success, but more people started circling him. Those folks came and went, just like Mason's fleeting love. In the final dream, everything was a mess, broken porcelain at my feet, bleeding as I cried and broke down. He watched me lose it, unmoved, saying coldly, "Lily, you look so ugly doing this." At that moment, I saw him. The guy I loved deeply during those young years suddenly seemed rotten. When I woke up, the sky was already dark. I groggily got up. A sudden voice startled me. I heard, "You're carrying my kid and spreading rumors that I'm dead." I jolted, turning towards the voice. Standing by the window, a man was looking at me, moonlight casting a silver glow over his dark suit. The room was dim, hidden in the shadows, hard to spot if he didn't speak. "Alex, you trying to scare someone to death? You're too much." Alex laughed, amused by my words. He walked to the bed and pulled me into his arms. Warm body heat seeped through my thin nightgown, his hand gently stroking my lower back. When he spoke again, his tone was full of helplessness. "Who's really been too much here, Lily? First you sleep with me and dip. Now you want to run off with my kid too." Alex guessed right. My plan was to have the baby and settle in a small town, far from Mason and far from Alex. After all, our relationship didn't start off clean. It was 3 months ago, on my birthday. Mason suggested spending the last birthday together before we split, for good luck and a clean break. He had made an early reservation at a restaurant. The window seat had a full view of the night skyline. He came to pick me up like nothing had changed between us. He brought me a cake and lit the candles himself. Make a wish. At his push, I closed my eyes with mixed feelings and quietly said my wish. It took maybe 10 seconds. When I opened my eyes again, the seat across from me was empty, leaving me confused. Mason had ghosted. I waited a while, but he didn't come back. Finally, a server told me, "Mr. Mason took a call and left. He said to finish your meal and head out. He'll cover all expenses." I watched the candles burn out on the cake, the frosting melting bit by bit. The happy birthday message turned into ugly red smears. Eventually, I laughed sarcastically. After leaving the restaurant, I hailed a cab to the harbor. When we were broke and couldn't afford to travel, Mason often took me to the harbor. He always said, if you can't see new places, at least enjoy the sea breeze. Later, the sea stayed the same, but people changed. I wandered aimlessly for a long time until someone nearby exclaimed, "Oh my God, this is so romantic." Following their gaze, I saw the night sky over the sea, countless drones sparkling, forming romantic cursive words. "Bella, I love you." Seconds later, fireworks exploded in the sky. Brilliant, stunning. People around me sighed. Wow, which rich guy is confessing his love now? It's just another day for us regular folks. I practically opened Twitter in a self-destructive mood. Sure enough, I saw Bella's bragging post. "True love is, no matter the time, as long as I say I miss him, he'll confess." The pic was of the drone confession. When someone's heart is totally shattered, they might go crazy. I bought a bunch of booze to drink. There were too many people by the sea. Mason and Bella were together, surrounded by oblivious passers-by, and they didn't even notice me. But I watched them for a long time until I realized I was surrounded by empty bottles, and my vision started to blur. I knew it was bad to keep drinking, so I got up and staggered away. It was tough escaping the noisy port. As I walked down the road, I bumped into someone. "Careful," he said, holding my hand to steady me. I straightened up and saw who it was. Alex, a big shot on Wall Street, heir to the late conglomerate. These years, through business deals, I've had some interactions with him. You could say 2/3 of my wealth came from the shade of his big tree. He's the complete opposite of Mason. Hardly any women around him. People joke he's gay. He never denies it. "Lily?" He held me up, frowning. "Why you drinking so much?" He smelled nice, super clean, unlike Mason, who always smelled like Bella's perfume. "Alex, they say you like men. True?" I asked out of nowhere. My tongue felt numb. Must be the booze. Alex was stunned at first, then sighed helplessly, carefully placing me into his Rolls Royce. Maybe he just looked really appealing to me. Maybe the alcohol numbed my senses. Or maybe I was just trying to get back at Mason. I quietly leaned closer to Alex and kissed his cheek. He turned, looking at me, shocked. For a moment, his pupils flickered. His pale skin turned slightly pink with heat. The next second, I boldly straddled him. "Alex, wanna try with me?" I was so close. My lips brushed his earlobe. It felt soft, so I kissed it. His ear felt a bit warm. He spoke above me, his voice a bit rough. "Lily, get a grip." I laughed. "I'm sober. I know you guys like young and pretty women. You can always ditch a woman when you're tired of her." Feeling hot, I instinctively wanted to move closer to somewhere cool. He frowned, eyes dark and unclear. I leaned back to kiss him again. This time, he didn't dodge it. His lips were cool, with a fresh mint scent, really nice. I kissed him breathlessly, almost to the point of suffocation. He held my head with one hand, my waist with the other, forcing me to keep going. The car's partition conveniently lifted, sealing us in a private space. He finally let go of me, his voice huskier than before. "Lily, I don't like men, and I don't like young ones." His reaction was so slow. We'd already kissed. Why say this now? I wasn't drunk enough to forget everything, but my head was fuzzy. Before I could think clearly, Alex started the car. Soon we reached the destination. Alex lifted me from the back seat, carried me through the villa's living room, quickly upstairs to the bedroom, and placed me carefully on the bed. Standing above me, he looked down. My eyes were fixed on his lips. The lips I just kissed, moist with steam, slightly swollen and red. I glanced down at the top two buttons of his shirt unbuttoned, collarbones exposed to the air. He looked like a seductive male siren. He curved his lips, guiding my hand under his shirt. Lily, you want it? Yes. Satisfied with my answer, Alex leaned down to kiss my lips. Different from the previous two times, this kiss was deep, intense, like he was trying to show his strong possessiveness. His burning kisses moved down. Lily, you like it? My face felt like it could fry. I could only cling tightly to Alex. At first, I bit my lips hard to avoid answering. But eventually, I gave in to Alex's assault. I buried my face in his neck, whimpering, "Yes, I like it." He kissed me with satisfaction. Finally, I drifted into a deep sleep in his arms. When I woke up the next day, he was already gone. I figured that meant he's someone who dodges trouble. Good, I dodge it too. Since he left, I decided to act like nothing happened. That'd be cool for both of us. So I slipped away, blacklisted him to keep things clean and avoid awkwardness. As for business, I let my team handle it, staying strictly professional. Since then, I hadn't seen Alex until a few days ago when I realized my period was late. Only then did I remember. I hadn't taken any birth control after that night. I secretly bought a pregnancy test, did 5 tests in a row, all positive. I was baffled. After my previous miscarriage, the doctor said it'd be hard to conceive again. So difficult. How did Alex hit the mark on the first try? I was confused. Logically, Alex should know, but I recalled his attitude that day. I wasn't sure, just in case. I kept quiet, planning to break up with Mason quickly and secure a future for me and the baby. Unfortunately, before I could, Alex found me. "Lily, why'd you block me?" His lips close to my ear, his voice cool, warm breath on my skin. "You didn't regret sleeping with me, did you?" His attitude left me stunned. I didn't expect him to care so much about me blocking him. To avoid more drama, I decided to set things straight. "Alex, we're both adults here. I initiated that night, so I get and accept the consequences. You found out about the hospital, so you know I'm definitely keeping the baby. I've got money. I can handle the child myself without bothering you. So, if you're really worried, we can sign a confidentiality agreement." Alex suddenly froze while kissing my earlobe. His voice dropped even lower. "You're gonna do it alone. What if the kid asks about their dad? And what if they want to see a pic of him?" I had already thought this through. "I won't say a word, just plan to end things with Mason quickly." I continued. "I'll tell the kid their dad is dead. We can use AI to create photos. As for the cause of death, let's say it was a car accident. If you're not cool with that, you can come up with a more legit death for yourself. Of course, if you want to see the kid later, that's fine. He can call you uncle." Alex frowned at first, then laughed angrily. "Call me uncle? Lily, what the hell do you think I am?" I was stunned and couldn't quite get his drift. I even planned out the future for him, and he still wasn't satisfied. "Alex, I just don't want to hassle you too much after you left so abruptly that day." As I spoke, I watched Alex's face and considered other possibilities. Could he have found out I was pregnant and changed his mind, wanting to fight for custody? Alex took several deep breaths before speaking again, a bit helplessly. "I never thought you were trouble." I was slightly taken aback. I had another ridiculous thought creeping into my mind. Alex stared at me seriously, explaining, "That day, there was an issue with my project's French division. I had to go sort it out personally. I left you a note asking you to wait for me to come back. So, you didn't see anything?" A note. I really didn't see anything. Why do you write a note in this high-tech age? Besides, I was too embarrassed to stay and just wanted to dip as fast as possible. Who's got time to check for notes? Alex continued, clearly upset. "When I tried to contact you later, I found out you'd blocked me on all channels. Lily, do you see me as someone shameful?" I gave an awkward laugh. "That's a bit much, but we can't just get married because we slept together once, right?" He looked down and asked, "Why not?" I widened my eyes, almost in disbelief. Are you serious? Alex, do you really like kids that much? Disbelief. Are you serious, Alex? Do you really like kids that much? Alex's gaze was incredibly deep, staring at me for a long time before lazily replying in a low voice. Let's just say, I like kids. Of course, I didn't agree to marry Alex. It was too wild. I'd gone from loving Mason deeply to being fed up with him. Our long entanglement hadn't ended well. I wasn't about to jump headfirst into another relationship trap. Alex didn't push. He just watched me re-add his contact info. He also insisted I inform him before my next prenatal checkup. I frowned. Is that really necessary? I wasn't sure, but I thought I sensed a gritted teeth tone in his smile. Didn't you say you like kids? If I like kids, how could I let you go for a prenatal checkup alone? All right then. I respected his rights as the biological father. Besides, he was a moneymaker in my business. I had to show at least some respect. After that, Alex started caring about my diet and clothes, even bought baby stuff. So once he went on a business trip to Europe and personally brought back a custom-made crib by a master craftsman. The crib was filled with diapers, formulas, and baby creams. He seemed genuinely hyped about the baby's arrival. Over time, I got used to this, until half a month later, at an auction, Alex and I were entering together when we saw Mason. Bella was clinging to Mason with a smug look. Long time no see, but Mason froze when he saw me with Alex. He opened his mouth, like he wanted to say something to me, but Bella didn't give him a chance. Honey, I'm kind of tired. Can you take me over there to sit? As they left, she turned and gave me a mocking look. I ignored it. Being pregnant, I needed to stay away from toxic people like that. The auction items were pretty basic, and I wasn't that interested. Until I saw a necklace. It was a beautiful piece I'd liked for years, but never managed to buy. Starting bid was $800K. I raised my paddle first. Bella wasn't far behind, continuously outbidding me. 1M. 1.5M. In the end, it was Mason who raised the paddle. 3M. He knew I wanted that necklace for ages. Still, he wanted to snatch it from me just to give it to Bella, sneaking a glance their way. I locked eyes with Bella's smug face, knowing Bella might not even like it that much. She just didn't want me to have it. 3M, first call. 3M, second call. I didn't raise my paddle again. Alex squeezed my hand, wanting to up the bid. 5M. Before he could finish, I quickly grabbed his hand to stop him. 5? What? 5? Are you nuts? He looked kinda innocent. 5M isn't that bad. You really like the necklace, don't you? I scoffed. How is it not expensive? You've never been broke, that's why. Only those who've truly been broke know that 5M is insanely pricey. When you're down and out, let alone 5M, you might fight for just $500. But I'm afraid Alex, who's never worried about money, wouldn't get that logic. I shook my head. Don't bother. I don't like losing money. Mason's 3M way exceeds the necklace's actual value. If he wants to be a sucker, let him. After all, the property split agreement had already been signed by Mason. Now, any cash he spends is from his own share. 3M isn't much, but bit by bit, it adds up. I'd be thrilled if he kept spending himself into poverty. 3M, third call, sold. The auction gavel hit, settling everything. After the event, people started leaving in a flow. Bella deliberately walked over to me, immediately flaunting. Lily, are you mad? It's all Mason's fault. He saw I liked it and didn't hesitate. I can lend it to you if you want to see it. Mason stood beside her, silently watching the scene unfold. Indeed, he spoiled Bella, letting her flaunt in front of me time and again. I smirked. No need. I don't like it that much. If you like it, keep it. Surely anything you look at can't be that good. I shot a meaningful glance at Mason beside her. Mason's face visibly darkened, irritated. Lily, what's up with you? It's just a necklace. Do you really need to be so harsh about it? It's no big deal. I'll buy you another one. I raised my eyes, then stared at him steadily. No need. Like you said, it's just a necklace. I don't lack. Mason seemed choked. Then it finally hit him. I was a jewelry designer. His company's first fortune came from me selling my designs, fetching him his first million. His company's first fortune came from me selling my designs, fetching him his first million. Back then, he held me with red eyes, promising to buy me loads of jewelry one day. In the end, he only gave me an ordinary ring. I was his girlfriend for 4 years and Mrs. Mason for 3 years. He tricked 7 of my most precious years with a tiny diamond. A promise is sincere the moment it's made, but sincerity changes fast. Love at its end distances itself by mountains and roads, all dependent on conscience. Now, he has his company, and I have my career. My jewelry brand is renowned worldwide. Anything I like, I can buy myself. I don't need him anymore. Seeming to remember the past, Mason looked a bit dazed. When he looked back at me, his eyes were filled with guilt and nostalgia. At that moment, Alex's tall figure suddenly stepped in, completely blocking Mason's gaze towards me. In a lazy yet utterly mocking voice, he said, "Mr. Mason, it's been years, and your taste has changed. You like this kind of girl now." Saying that, Alex threw a casual glance at Bella. Bella barely held back her rage, but her entire face was twisted with anger. I couldn't care less about looking anymore. "Alex, let's bounce." Calling his name in public seemed to please Alex. He bent his lips into a smile. I thought that'd be the end of it and get some peace. Who knew Mason would suddenly regret everything? I've got a habit of silencing my phone when I sleep. That day, when I woke up, my screen showed over 30 missed calls and 99 messages, all from Mason. "Lily, let's talk. I'm coming over. Nobody's home. Where are you? What were you checking at the OBGYN last time? Are you expecting? If you're pregnant, I won't agree to the divorce. If you don't answer, I'll wait outside your door. Lily, why weren't you home all night? Why did you dismiss the servants?" "Because I moved out a long time ago. Living in a house with his traces made me uneasy, so I sold it." After Alex found out, as a dad, he kindly offered a private island villa and hired personal doctors and caregivers. The island has a beautiful environment and perfect climate, ideal for a peaceful pregnancy. I didn't refuse. Anyone would be dumb to turn down such an offer. Since Alex wanted to enjoy his rights as a father, he naturally had to be willing to spend. It's called fair trade. Alex and I had grown to understand this unspoken rule. As for Mason, according to the deal, there's still a good chunk of property he hasn't transferred to me. Now he wants to backtrack. Not a chance. I immediately called him back. Mason's voice came through, tired and slightly hoarse. "Lily, I asked the former servants. They said they noticed you taking pregnancy-related meds. If it's true, then maybe we shouldn't split up." I suddenly lost my patience. When you're down on your luck, even taking a pill gets monitored by nosy servants. Fortunately, I always knew you can't hide the truth forever. So I was mentally prepared. Before Mason could finish, I cut him off flatly. "Yes, I'm expecting, but Mason, who said the kid is yours?" The other end of the phone was silent for a long time. I could almost hear Mason's quick breaths. After a while, he finally coldly retorted, "Lily, what do you mean?" When Mason finally found me, I was playing with Eggy. Eggy is a little yellow dog Alex adopted for me so I wouldn't get bored. He was gentle and affectionate, loved to lie by my feet and soak up the sun. Mason saw me and was stunned. "So you really are here. If I'm not mistaken, this property should be under the He family name." He stared at my belly like he wanted to burn a hole through me. "When exactly?" I tilted my head and smiled, telling him, "Remember my birthday? The night you left halfway to confess to Bella with that drone?" Mason's eyes widened, staring at me in disbelief. Finally, he stammered, "Lily, we hadn't even broken up, and you were already cheating on me." To him, it was like I had done something wrong, like I was the one to blame. I couldn't help but laugh mockingly and shot back, "And all these years, as you kept changing lovers, and when you got Bella expecting, did you ever think of me?" Knowing he couldn't justify himself, he stood there for a long time before reluctantly saying, "Lily, abort the baby. Let's not fight anymore. We'll go to the registry and get married. Let's have a good life together, okay?" I laughed out loud, staring at him without blinking. "Abort? You think that's even possible? I had a miscarriage before. The doctor said it'd be hard for me to have kids again. Do you remember why I had that miscarriage? What right do you have to decide the fate of my child?" He staggered, pain flashing in his eyes. Fine, then have the baby. When you're better, we'll have our own child, okay? I felt like it was the funniest joke I'd ever heard. I couldn't help but look at him like he was nuts. Do you even hear yourself? His eyes were red as he made one last attempt. Lily, for you, I'll accept this kid. At that moment, a low chuckle came from not far away. It was Alex. He loosened the top button of his shirt and spoke lazily yet mockingly. Want my kid to call you dad? Are you worthy? The atmosphere tensed immediately. The moment Mason saw Alex, it was like he'd been provoked, charging at him furiously. Alex, it's you! Unfortunately, he didn't manage to lay a finger on Alex before the villa's bodyguard stopped him. He probably forgot whose house this was. Mason's eyes were bloodshot, trying to break free from the guards to fight Alex, but reality was harsh. With a flick of the guard's wrist, he was thrown to the floor. And Alex just sat on the sofa, legs crossed, looking at him expressionlessly, his face as cold as ice. Are you leaving on your own, or do I have to have you kicked out? I was a bit surprised. Even though Alex was dignified, he was known for his composure. Even when facing business rivals, he'd never lost his cool like this. It was the first time I'd seen him so angry, and since Mason came alone, there was nothing he could do no matter how much he wanted. Looking defeated, he stumbled to his feet and handed me a box. I didn't open it. The blue velvet box, I could guess what it was. It was that necklace Bella had taken, the one I'd wanted for a long time. He lowered his head and said to me, Lily, on the day of the auction, I didn't really want to take away what you liked. I just wanted to make you jealous, to make you give in a little. I've got the necklace back for you. I'll make Bella get rid of the kid. Don't you still like this necklace? Can we get back together, please? Yes, I used to like it so much. He knew that, but he still helped Bella use it to slap me in the face. He also knew every time I cried and argued, it tore me apart, but he kept hurting me again and again. I said softly, I don't like it anymore. Neither the necklace nor you. Mason's face turned white. Lily, don't be stubborn, okay? You're really willing to leave me. It was so ironic. Back then, he was the one who hurt me the most. And now, he acts like he's the victim. I looked at his slightly reddened eyes, pulled my clothes from his grip, and said seriously, Mason, you destroyed everything with your own hands. If we're breaking up, let's do it completely. Don't make me look down on you. 3 days later, Mason and I completed the final property settlement at the notary office. Mason looked exceptionally haggard, with dark circles under his eyes, clearly not having slept well. But now, his well-being had nothing to do with me anymore. As we parted ways, he seemed to have something to say, but before he could, Bella suddenly appeared, her usual gentle facade gone, replaced with anger and resentment. Mason, she already has someone else's kid. Why give her so much? I thought it was just a breakup payment. How could you even transfer that 80 million villa to her? Did you even think about me and our baby? I frowned a little. Bella might not know that what Mason gave me wasn't just a breakup payment. Every deal he made, every penny he earned, had my share in it. Without me, he wouldn't have what he has today. I just got what I deserved. Besides, Bella was being too impatient. Mason, this guy, love comes in strong waves, but fades quickly. Her image of being a gentle wife broke down too fast, which wasn't good at all. Lily, don't even think about taking advantage. Bella screamed at me, rushing towards me without hesitation. Enough, Mason shouted loudly, stopping her. Have you had enough? Stop embarrassing yourself here. Bella's body stiffened from the yell, her eyes turning red in an instant. She threw a fake handbag viciously at Mason. Embarrassing! How can you yell at me? You broke up with her, didn't you? Why are you still protecting her? More and more onlookers gathered around. Mason's expression grew more and more annoyed, finally erupting. Even if I don't marry Lily, I'll never marry you. Bella was stunned by the yell. The next second, she realized what had happened and chased after him in a panic, trying to grab Mason's hand, but Mason looked indifferent, pushing her away forcefully. Stay away from me? That's when the accident happened. Bella always loved dressing up. Even after getting pregnant, she still insisted on wearing delicate sheepskin high heels. She liked using those to show Mason's love for her. As a result, Mason's shove made her lose her footing, and she tumbled down the steps several times. She landed on the ground, covering her stomach with a pale face, crying out in pain for help. My kid, Mason, my stomach hurt so much. Seeing this, Mason panicked too, looking extremely unpleasant. About 4 or 5 seconds later, blood started trailing down Bella's legs. My heart trembled at the sight. Before, our kid Mason and I lost the same way. Is it fate for someone unfaithful and unloving? Even family ties are destined to be shallow. Or maybe the baby senses that its dad doesn't love it while in the womb. So it leaves in sadness, even though the human world is nice. It chooses not to come again because of Bella's scene. Word about Alex and me eventually got out to the family. The next day, Alex's grandfather ordered him to return to the old house. He specifically mentioned wanting to see me. On the car ride, I couldn't help but feel nervous. Alex reassured me, telling me his grandpa is easy to talk to. I believed him, but from the moment we walked in, the old man's brows never relaxed. Though he was 80 and needed a cane to walk, his face held authority, and he had a natural aura of superiority. Squinting his eyes, he commanded, in an unquestionable tone, "Kneel." His authoritative voice echoed throughout the hall. Alex didn't hesitate for a second, taking off his suit jacket and kneeling straight away. I trembled following behind him. Do I also have to kneel? My head filled with questions. Then Alex's grandpa spotted me, and his attitude did a complete 180 degrees. Smiling kindly, he walked towards me. "Girl, don't be nervous. Sit down. Grandpa isn't a bad person. Grandpa just wants to help teach that naughty grandson of mine a lesson. You watch from the sofa." I was completely stunned as Alex's housekeeper mom helped me sit down. When my eyes met Alex's, he slightly smiled, signaling me not to mind. It seemed he was used to kneeling. He could handle it, right? But no, I overestimated him because the next second he said, "Grandpa, Alex is sitting, so I shouldn't have to kneel, right?" It'd have been better if he said nothing. Alex's grandpa exploded right away. In an instant, he picked up the cane and struck my back without mercy. "You brat, how dare you sass me? Have you forgotten the family rules? So many matches were arranged for you, but you refused all of them. And now you've compromised a decent girl. Disgraceful." As he scolded, the old man swung the cane even harder. I was shocked by the scene. What era is this? They still use family rules. Alex, who is a dominating figure outside, obediently knelt and got beaten at home. I tried to plead. Alex's grandpa? Actually, it's not Alex's fault. I was drunk and Before I could finish, Alex's grandpa interrupted. "Don't plead for him. You were drunk. But what about him? If he didn't have bad thoughts, could this have happened? It's clearly this brat taking advantage of you. Watch me teach him a lesson." Alex's grandpa meant business while beating me. Seeing 10 strokes in, Alex's white shirt already showed hints of blood. I quickly stepped in to stop the cane. No more beating. Alex's grandpa wasn't willing, trying to wrestle the cane back. In the tussle, Alex suddenly stood up from his obedient kneel, shielding me behind him. "Grandpa, you can beat me, but don't push Lily. She's expecting." Alex's grandpa's hand froze in midair upon hearing this. After a few moments of confusion, a gleam of joy shone in his eyes. "Expecting? Are you saying I'm gonna have a great-grandchild?" Alex hesitated. "You called me back for a beating yet didn't know she's expecting." Alex's grandpa shook his head in puzzlement. So, he only had a vague idea and didn't know I was already carrying Alex's kid. I came to Alex's home, this time fully prepared to discuss the custody of the child. Who would have thought the old man, after hearing the whole story, would directly ask me when I was gonna marry Alex? "Old man, aren't you changing your stance too quickly?" I had to explain. "Sorry, Alex's grandpa. I don't have any plans to get married right now." Alex's grandpa went silent for a moment, then looked at Alex with a look of disappointment. "You little rascal, what are you doing? Why haven't you even chased your wife yet?" He said this without avoiding me at all. I awkwardly turned my head away, but then I heard Alex's amused voice beside my ear. "Yeah, I guess I'm too dumb, but I'm already trying. I'll work harder." That night, Alex's grandpa arranged for us to stay in the old house. He even purposely mentioned that there weren't enough rooms and pushed us into sharing a bedroom. The old man's intentions were clear. The bedroom had a black and white minimalist decor. It was obviously Alex's private room. Alex took off his blood-stained shirt and asked me to help him apply some ointment. His skin was very fair, making the bruises and wounds stand out even more. I took the ointment and carefully applied it, brushing my fingertips against the skin of his back. His body temperature was a little hot. Alex suddenly spoke, his voice hoarse. "Grandpa is always hoping I'll get married. He's a bit overenthusiastic. Don't take it to heart." I softly mumbled in understanding. Old folks always long for a house full of kids and grandkids. After applying the ointment, I let out a long breath. I casually glanced around the room. Suddenly, a pair of cufflinks on the cabinet caught my eye. Why do they look so familiar? As if possessed, I walked over, picked them up, and was shockingly surprised. "Alex, how did you get these cufflinks?" Alex's gaze fell on the cufflinks and then shifted to my face. After a few seconds of silence, he lowered his eyelashes slightly. "You gave them to me." I looked at him incredulously. "How's that possible? I sold these cufflinks 8 years ago." Alex held the cufflinks, took a deep breath, and seemed to have steeled himself mentally before explaining. 8 years ago, a girl selling stuff near the university gate pushed them on me. These cufflinks had 6 blue and white diamonds, finely crafted. No worse than high-end brands, but she sold them to me for only $800. She said she designed them herself. They weren't branded, so they weren't worth much. She sold them to save up money to buy her boyfriend a new phone. I looked up and smiled self-deprecatingly. Back then, I thought she was pretty, just a bit silly. During that time, I often walked through that street and always saw her at her store. If she hadn't had a boyfriend, I would have definitely chased her. Later on, she graduated and I went abroad. I thought we'd never cross paths again. But a few years later, her work showed up at an international jewelry auction. And later, she brought her jewelry brand directly to me. Seeing her walk towards me step by step, my heart fluttered again. All these years, my upbringing kept reminding me that she was taken. I should never disturb her. Until that night, when she stumbled into my arms. The night closed in, the room was dimly lit, with a soft yellow glow. Breezes came through the old house's window screens, bringing a gentle coolness. Alex's voice grew softer. "That night, you kissed me first, Lily. How could I ever let go after that?" I was stunned listening to all this. Alex was already holding my face, kissing me deeply. Later, I gave birth to a sweet, adorable daughter. Alex always stayed by my side, but I never agreed to his proposals, not for any special reason. I just didn't want to be tied down by a relationship again. Only those who've been in a cage know the value of freedom. Plus, liking someone and marriage are not the same thing. I didn't dare easily get involved again. My daughter took my surname and was named Zoe. I accompanied Zoe from her babbling first words to her first day at school. Unwittingly, another 7 years had passed. People talked about Alex, saying he transformed from a young and handsome gay guy to the current golden bachelor. Alex would always clarify publicly, "I'm not gay and I'm not single. I have a girlfriend. I also have a daughter. My daughter is really beautiful." Alex's grandpa, still tough as nails, would often grumble sarcastically, "Yeah, you have a girlfriend, you also have a daughter, but you don't have a wife and your daughter calls you uncle." Zoe always knew Alex was her dad, but she stuck to me too much. When Alex came over, he would insist on sleeping with me, being clingier than a child. So Zoe would get coaxed away by her grandma. That's why she would pointedly call him Uncle Alex. Uncle Alex, feeling wronged by his daughter, would pitifully come to me at night. He'd hold and kiss me repeatedly, his tone full of grievance. "Lily, you heartless woman. When will you finally give me a proper title?" He had his arm around my waist, and I lazily poked at his abs. "Depends on your performance tonight and my mood tomorrow." Alex grumbled that I always gave him empty promises. The next second, he buried his head and kissed me even more passionately and fiercely. Later, I heard from a friend that Mason was dead. After Bella lost the baby, she clung to Mason and wouldn't let go. She threatened to marry him, demanding he take care of her for the rest of her life. Mason had grown tired of her and refused to comply, even trying to fire her from the company. Desperate, Bella fought back by leaking company secrets to a rival and exposing various financial issues. Mason was overwhelmed by her actions, losing several big deals. and ultimately seeing his company go bankrupt. He came to despise Bella, and in one of their heated arguments, he accidentally pushed her down the stairs. Feeling hopeless, Mason followed her and jumped too. I merely nodded and said, "Is that so?" With no emotion in my heart, after all these years, hearing Mason's name felt like a distant memory. My friend sighed, "Back in school, you two were so good together. I still remember how Mason would bring you food and tutor you every day. He couldn't be without you. The whole girls' dorm knew how much he loved you. How did such a good person end up so miserable?" I listened quietly, like hearing about a stranger. Mom, come play." Not far away, my daughter was calling for me. Alex was playing frisbee with our daughter and the dog. I hurriedly ended the call and took the frisbee from my daughter, throwing it far. The dog ran freely, and my daughter laughed happily. Alex looked over at me. In that glance, his eyes were gentle. The years were kind. After the breakup, Mason secretly went to see Lily 3 times. The first time was at the hospital. He was deeply troubled by Bella's harassment. Long-term smoking and drinking had taken a toll on his health. A stomach problem landed him in the hospital. In unbearable pain, Mason would instinctively think of Lily. In the past, if he even slightly frowned after a drinking session, Lily would worry if he was unwell. If he threw up, she'd be even more distressed. He always thought that someone who loved him so much like Lily would never leave him. But now, with a bleeding stomach and excruciating pain, even hearing her voice was a luxury. Lily had long deleted him from her Instagram. Luckily, old messages were still there. He obsessively listened to her old voice messages. "Honey, come pick me up after work. By the way, find some time this year to take me to Iceland to see the Northern Lights." "Okay. Mason, Mr. Mason, happy birthday. No working late tonight. And don't make fun of my ugly cake." Her voice seemed so close to his ears. Playful, sweet. "Mason, happy birthday. No working late tonight. And don't make fun of my ugly cake." Her voice seemed so close to his ears. Playful, sweet, angry. He purposely ignored the later arguing and her tearful questioning. "Do you still love me?" It was only after losing her that he realized he wasn't tired of Lily, but Lily had already become a part of his very being, like oxygen, seemingly unnoticed but essential. Later, by a twist of fate, he saw Lily again at the OB/GYN of the same hospital. Lily was there for a checkup. Alex was with her the whole time, this well-dressed man attending to a pregnant woman, personally running back and forth. At that moment, Mason mustered all his strength to resist the urge to run to her and beg for forgiveness. To avoid disturbing her, he fled in disgrace. The second time he saw Lily was 3 years later. At that time, his company was in trouble. Seeking funds, he was running everywhere. Passing by the billboard at Times Square, he saw her jewelry ad. She was a designer with both business smarts and artistic talent. In these years, his career had stagnated while she had left him far behind. Mason saw Lily standing under the billboard, wearing a bright red dress. Maybe for some business event, she was posing with reporters. She looked stunning, and he looked miserable, like he could never catch up to her again. Mason silently watched, his eyes turning red. The third time he saw Lily was at an amusement park. The sun shone brightly that day. Alex held their daughter's hand with one hand, holding an umbrella over Lily with the other. All three wore cute, matching outfits. The little girl laughed joyfully, first calling Alex Uncle Alex. But then, for some reason, she suddenly changed, calling him Dad. Alex seemed stunned, repeatedly confirming, "Zoe, what did you call me? Can you call me that?" A few more times quickly, the little girl was a bit shy, but with Lily's encouragement, she happily hugged Alex. "I'm calling you Dad. Why don't you want to be my dad and still want to be my uncle?" Alex seemed so happy he could cry, and Mason was standing far away in an unnoticed corner, watching the scene with jealousy. At that time, his company had already gone bankrupt. Bella was like a cancer, torturing him to the point of wishing he were dead. He was so jealous that Alex got Lily. He regretted even more. If he hadn't given in to temptation back then, it would be him holding Lily's hand now. They'd have kids and wear matching family outfits. If only there was a time machine in the world, than he could travel back to before he hurt Lily. She'd still be his sweetheart. But unfortunately, all of this was just a pipe dream. Bella came to bother him again. This time, during the quarrel, Bella threw his old phone out of the window from the 10-something floor. The phone shattered into pieces. Mason completely lost it. That phone had Lily's old voice messages. All these years, he never had the heart to delete them. During every sleepless night, he relied on those voices to poison himself. But Bella destroyed it. In that moment, his sanity was completely devoured. He pushed Bella out. "Go to hell," he said to Bella and to himself. As the body arched through the air, in that moment of falling, the howling wind passed by his ears. "Lily, if I'm not here anymore, would you think of me sometimes? Or maybe it's better to forget."